Welcome back to Tabletop Nerdcast. This is our Age of Rebellion campaign called Galactic Youth. You may have just finished watching our Session 0. If you haven't, go back because it's going to give you a lot of information about our characters. Now, if you're new to this stream or you're new to YouTube and just finding us, then you can go ahead and click on the subscribe button. We're going to have content coming out weekly with this particular game, as well as other content coming out from multiple games. Rick, he runs our D&D campaign, Piercing the Crystal Veil, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. And Percy is currently running our Legend of the Five Rings campaign.
Been going on for a while.
So that's been going on for a little while. But I think there's something else that's in the works that's going to come back up, and it's Genesis of some sort.
I mean, I'm willing to talk about it a little bit.
Well,
If
2 minutes. You get 2 minutes.
If you want to give us some time.
You get 2 minutes. You get 2 minutes.
I don't even think I'll need that long because I'm not going to give too much away right now because our Session 0 is going to be very full.
You've already used 10 seconds of
and,
your time.
So I just want to take this time to really talk about how amplified I am about the rebellion right now. No, our next.
You may have a light side point. No.
our in September, the first week of September, because we're shifting to live streaming every week now instead of just on specific shows. So September 3rd, we're going to start another new show in Genesis called Wonder, and it's going to be. I know Mike and Rick are here, and if you guys listened to Silent and Deadly, Katie and Aaron are going to join us again for that one. And fun. So. We're gonna have a lot of fun with that one. It's gonna be like a kind of I've kind of made a little bit even more of a shift because we had some specific requests from some followers of ours to kind of do something more cyberpunky. So I'm gonna add an element of that to what we're doing as well.
Okay.
So
kind of like the Beanstalk stuff, or just Genesis?
Sort of. So we're not going quite that far forward. It's still going to be about 70 years from now, and we're just going to be messing with like what
and
happens.
You're out of time.
The premise is what happens when 70 years from now we discover that magic was real all along and we start figuring out how to use it. And that's going to be the whole. It's like a Star Trek exploration of magic on Earth. It's going to be very interesting.
Alrighty then. We'll see how we can have fun with that one.
Yeah, it's gonna be really cool. I think.
All right.
I hope. If it tanks, it tanks. But I'm really excited for it.
Now, for those of you that are again new to us here, these episodes for Star Wars are going to run maybe about 45 minutes long, but our D&D content is going to push hour and a half minimum at least. I think we went up to 3 last time, so we'll see what happens.
We almost 4 hours.
4.5.
Yeah, well, no, it wasn't because we started half an hour late.
I was trying to go with each session there.
Okay.
So
I will do better at tracking the time. There's a lot I learned. It was the first one I
We
ran.
got home late.
Yeah, I know. And so I wasn't, as I was running it more like when I run a D&D. As opposed to running a podcast or running a show. So,
and then I think most of our other shows are going to average right around between 45 minutes to an hour, just around that kind of time frame. And those shows, I believe, are going to be released every other week. So we'll have something unique coming out every other week, as well as having Star Wars going every single week.
Yeah.
So you will get a lot of content from us.
Oh, yeah. At least 2 shows a week.
And
probably more.
If you find yourself in a position where you can't watch YouTube, we have a podcast.
Yeah, it's a second class thing. It's fine.
It was supposed to be the primary class of the podcast.
It is the primary class, but the reality is, you're looking at us live.
Really,
so
if you're streaming, you're a video person. So.
Right. Yeah. And a lot of times I listen to it regularly, actually, in the truck. On podcasts.
But Percy does a fantastic job of editing out all of our flubs. Now, YouTube, we keep all the flubs in.
No.
Unless we go too far. Then we're like every other table. Then we have to take some of that stuff out. But most of the time, you're going to see us live raw content through YouTube. But if you want the quick and the good, detailed, high-quality story and you want the great audio sound that you could just throw in some earbuds and enjoy.
Without all the dice rolling and page flipping. That's really the thing.
Throat clearing, coughing.
I should do
clearing my throat.
I should do a supercut of Rick clearing his throat.
You could probably make a whole half-hour episode of just that.
Is this
I think it's just half hour. We've been recording for a year now.
Probably longer than that. You know what? We could put some
is this the Yoda fart wave? I mean,
it's like those 10-hour videos on YouTube of like Skeletor just going, "Wow!" but it's just Rick.
Pretty soon he's going to use those as some sort of.
We're falling apart quick. Anyway, Star Wars. That's what we're here for.
Come on, let's get going, man.
All right, guys.
We're good.
So again, with Saul,
We're
he's
good.
a new player to the table, new player to the system. So this first episode, we are going to cover some of the more basics. I know most of us here are pretty seasoned. A lot of you that are watching are probably fairly seasoned. So we're going to go into a few little details. And one of the things that we have is what's called a dark side, light side point. Okay? Players can use a light side point to upgrade their rolls or introduce a new fact to the story or the scene. You have an option at any point in time to do this. You have to make your decision before I make my decision of what I'm going to do. Because I get to spend dark side points. So, good.
Good.
Bad. Alright. Anyway.
I prefer good and fun. Having been the GM.
Yeah, I know.
It's really bad.
Let's
Hero
just say
points.
I'm going to make the scene more interesting for you.
Interesting. There we
A
go.
challenge.
Good word, challenge.
All right.
Yes.
So the way that we're going to do this, and I know we've done this in different ways, but the way that we're going to do this is a little bit closer to the base rule. There is a force die that does exist, and I would like each and one of my players to go ahead and roll a force die and tell me.
Well, that didn't work.
Rick, you have a dice roller right
I
in front of you.
did.
He missed the dice roller, people.
Wait. No, it hit the dice roller and rolled and bounced over the wall.
So Mr. Rick has rolled one dark side
Yeah,
point.
I want to see what's the one on the ground.
One
that I
dark side
actually
point.
write. Oh, they're both dark side points.
2 light side points.
All right.
Yes.
One last time.
All
Oh,
right.
there's 2 light side points. Right
Negative, sir.
there. Oh, man.
All right.
And the GM
Now-
roll.
Yes. The GM is going to roll. In some games they don't, but in my game, I'm going to roll. I am going to give you 2 extra light side points.
Yay.
So the pool right
So I'm the
now.
only one that generated a dark side point?
Yes. The pool right now is decidedly in your favor. We will do this every single
And
session.
being an Nautilin, I love the pool.
All right. Somebody peed in it, sir. Somebody peed in it.
I don't like that so much.
All right.
But, you know, when you go into a lake or a river, you know what's in there? Plenty of pee. All the fish and all the animals, they all...
How did we get here? How did we get here?
You got us here. That was all you.
I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth. It's over with. All right.
All right.
So we've had a good laugh to start off the game so far, and hopefully we still have viewers.
Do they have a pool at that park we're going to, you know?
No.
They have like a waiting pool or, you know, a viewing pool or something.
All right. So, for 2 of my players here, they participated in our Call of Cthulhu campaign. And a lot of this is going to feel very similar from the way that I'm going to describe a scene and then just open it up for what's going to take place. And then from there, we're just going to play off of each other until we figure out how that scene's going to come to a completion. All right? We're at Monument Park. It's a plaza that circles the summit of the highest peak of the Monterari Mountains. And it's called Umati. This is only a kilometer away from the Imperial Palace. The Imperial Palace is in view as we speak off in the distance. It's one of the only places on Coruscant where you can truly see and touch bare earth, stone. The lowest level of Coruscant, all the way down at level 1, is uninhabitable. There is so much pollution, there is so much just destruction and trash that anyone that goes down there potentially runs risks of getting poisoned. All right? This is one on a normal day. This is a tourist attraction, and it attracts thousands of residents and thousands of species of aliens and travelers that are humans that are just visiting Coruscant on business. The plaza is surrounded by what looks like a group of buildings almost resembling an open air stadium that we would recognize today. It's filled with shops, it's filled with restaurants, it's filled with souvenir stores. There's typically vendors everywhere, even little pushcart vendors. You know, everybody's just trying to make a living off of the visitors that are coming here to see Earth, essentially, the only place that you can see it. There's a Galactic Museum at one side. It used to house all of the old Republic memorabilia. Obviously, with the Imperial law, it's now turned more into Imperial propaganda. But it holds hundreds of thousands of miscellaneous artifacts. Huge red and black Imperial banners hang around the outside and outskirts of these buildings, facing in towards the plaza, which is lined with statues, heroes of the Empire. Different people in uniforms, different, I guess, you know, they're all standing in imposing forms. You know, you'd see different types of folks, from commanders all the way down to what looks like a lonely stormtrooper. Each one has a plaque at the bottom recognizing what they've done. At the top of the North Garden, which is where everyone is located right now, about 6,000 residents or 6,000 aliens and people have all gathered. The sun has just fallen, fireworks are going off, speeders are flying overhead. The crowd is cheering and they're in a complete uproar. But at the center of the North Garden stands a statue of the Emperor. Several key members of the crowd that are very close to this, you see cables attached to this statue, and more of the crowd joining in as they get louder and louder, and cheers getting louder and louder as the statue begins to topple. A single officer with some security troopers has pushed his way, after that statue has crumbled and toppled to the ground, to the very center just in front of that statue, and orders his men to set up a perimeter. The scene kind of cuts, and what happens is it fades into an office. Looking off, seeing fireworks in the distance. A woman, an older woman, with a rank insignia that looks like a director, sits alone in the office, and she's draped in a black uniform. Her brown hair has gray streaks coming down the front. And she's sitting on her computer and talking on a comlink. A symbol in the background shows Imperial intelligence. And all that's heard, by the camera at this point, is, "Commander, I expect you to quell this uprising quickly. Use any means necessary." And as we fade back over to where the commander is, you see a quick nod. Each of you in the crowd, everyone's kind of focused on what's happening with these troopers as the cheers get louder and louder. No one knows what's going to happen. They've only heard rumors of what's been happening at this point in different parts of Coruscant. The officer nods, and he looks at his troopers, and shots start ringing out all over the plaza. There's screams. The crowd starts to begin to run in different directions. Some of the crowd starts trying to get closer to the troopers. Some of them pull out little holdout blasters, little, handheld things, and try and return fire. But all they're doing is ultimately causing more damage within the crowd itself. within moments, additional security forces start pouring out of the outside out of the outskirts of these buildings, this open air stadium style, and they add to this maelstrom of just blaster bolts everywhere. There's some that, if you were looking at this scene, you'd see some that are blue, some that are red. So there's some troopers that are stunning. There's some troopers that are firing just blindly in. Different squads are using slightly different tactics. I'd like each one of you to roll me an average perception check with a single setback. Now, Saul, because you have not done this, your perception skill is based on cunning, correct?
Yes.
So, do you have any ranks next to your perception skill? I don't believe you should.
No. Perception skill, you said?
Yes.
I do not.
All right. So then what you would do is you would take green dice equal to the number that you have for your cunning characteristic.
No. So just 2 greens?
Mm-hmm. And the average roll is 2 purples.
Altogether.
That's correct. So in Star Wars, you roll all the positive and all the negative dice at the same time. Let's come to that. And because I said that there is a setback, your setback is that the crowd is going crazy. It's really hard to see what's going on. You've got some fleeing, some fighting back. So go ahead and roll that, and let's work through the cancellation here. So my favorite saying.
Oh, yeah. Well, that didn't work.
We have symbols that look like stars, and we like to say those are blast symbols. We have symbols that look like curved triangles, and Percy will probably edit this out for later on, but those look like panties. So stars and panties counteract each other, so we like to call that blasting panties. All right.
Seems to have blast one.
It's how you remember to cross cancel in this game. If you get something that works, it works. As far as our threats and advantages, our advantages look like a penguin. So the threats look like a target, an imperial symbol. So you either target penguins or you're blasting panties.
I'm not going to let you target penguins.
So
None of them.
that said, don't hurt animals, guys.
Do not.
That said, I'm introducing that for a concept so that a new player, fresh to the table, will have something stuck in their head that's just like, man, that is so ridiculous, but it works.
Right.
Okay. And we'll get to triumphs and despairs later on as we roll forward. So, what kind of results do we have here, Percy?
I have 2 successes and 1 threat left over.
All right.
2 successes.
All right. Saul.
Well, you have success, correct?
No.
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 What is
no.
this?
So these 2 will wash out.
Yeah, you got
Okay.
to
The
tell
target and the penguin, that cancels each other out. And same thing with these. Basically, this would cancel, and it would turn into a single failure.
Which is
All right.
still a failure.
Woo!
Yes.
All right. So the crowd is just too much for you to kind of, break through and see any kind of details that are going on.
I got nada.
You got nada.
Yep.
Did you have any threats?
Nothing left over.
Okay,
Just
so you
pretty
didn't have
much
any threats
splash.
left over. So, Aaron.
Aaron.
Is this like Call of Cthulhu where I didn't want to succeed and see anything?
You're going
I
to-
know, I failed all of those and it was fine.
You're gonna feel kind of this overwhelming sense of, oh crap, this is gonna go bad.
Do I feel this before it starts to
This
go
is
down?
no. This is as things are going on. You're a little bit more concerned about where you are because it feels like you don't necessarily have a means to get out easily. So you're going to take a threat from this. But what you do see is at the very last second possible, you see some of those additional troopers turn and face the buildings themselves. And why this scares you?
Am I in the crowd or the building?
We're going to go there.
We're going there.
Why this scares you. Before this took place, you're in one of the local restaurants with your father. It's a long day of doing some research at the museum. He drug you along. Pretty sure you probably didn't want to go. You probably wanted to hang out with your friends and run some speeders. But he needed your help. So quite by happenstance, it is the night that it's confirmed that the Emperor died and this celebration takes place. Those blaster bolts start firing through the glass. And because you were successful in your perception, you were able to kind of get up and start to holler towards your father, who stood up himself and started trying to usher you towards the back of the building, placing himself between you and those troopers.
What could go wrong?
As that takes place, glass starts shredding around you. It just starts flying, caving in. And your dad is screaming at the top of his lungs. Hey, run! Get out of here. I don't care where you go. Just go. And this is where we're going to ask, what would you like to do?
The whole front is glass?
The whole front. These
There's
are windows that are
no...
showing out over to this plaza and this park. That is the main attraction in the area.
So is this like an elevated restaurant or is it ground level?
These are ground levels.
Okay, cool. Okay. I think I for sure hesitate. Right, like I see all of this, and there's a lot of blaster fire.
There is a ton of blaster fire. This is the first time you're probably around this type of scenario.
Okay.
Or not watching it on the HoloNet.
Yeah. Right. Have you determined how we got here? Already? Like how we got to the restaurant?
I know what you're angling for right now.
No, I haven't.
So I think if it's all right with you, I'd like to flip one of those light side points to say our family has a junked up speeder that barely works. It's just kind of like
for the government.
Sure, exactly. That's why it's
oh, but he's a Twi'lek.
Yeah,
so
yeah, exactly. We get the lowest bottom end of the barrel, and so basically, it's a government issued speeder that's really intended to get, the few kilometers it takes to get from home to wherever it is we're working for that day. Maybe if we're lucky. So I want to flip that point to say that that's what we have at the restaurant. It's parked, kind of in the back. That's where you would kind of bike chain those things out.
I will allow the speeder to be there, but I will say that because of the way that in general the park is laid out and the way the buildings are and it's a tourist attraction, it's several rows of buildings back where they have the landing pads that allow for the speeders for this area.
That's fine.
It's not just a thing. It's not like each building has its own. It's this whole area has a set.
I think even like to go as far as to say it's an air speeder is probably too far. I think it's probably a land speeder, and probably not all that fast. But I think that's what I'm going to go for.
Okay, we can go with that.
So yeah, so I kind of like as he points me back, I'm going to jump over whatever counter they have and rush out the back door.
All right. So for anybody that's new to the stream, just for mechanics purposes and understanding of what just happened, Percy and while in the scene, Aaron decided to flip a light side to a dark side to introduce a fact to the story, which is one way that you can use your dark side, light side points. There are additional ways to use these by upgrading your skill checks that get called in. So where you would not have a rank in a skill, you could always upgrade that and increase your potential at that moment in that role to have something be much more successful. All right. So we're going to cut back into the scene here. And Aaron you described him initially as pausing in panic.
Yeah, he kind of pauses, and then the reason that he takes off is because he figures my dad works for the government. He'll just turn around and like hold his hands up, and they'll stop shooting.
So you feel him behind you, kind of shoving you and trying to push you forward, and next thing you hear is a table toppling over behind you as he's saying, Aaron, go, go, go. And he's significantly larger than you are, so he's trying to move a little faster. And obviously anybody that's a little panicked, they're going to be able to move a little bit quicker. So he's worried about you at this point. And you're continuing to hear shots, you're continuing to hear screams, you're continuing to hear more glass breaking. The tables are being tossed everywhere. People are running back towards the kitchen in this scenario, trying to get out the back of the building. And as you start to run back towards the back, there's this big bottleneck of people and aliens just trying to cram through that door all at the same time. I would like to see if you would do an athletics check for me, an average athletics check.
Okay.
To see if you can wiggle your way with your size through this crowd to see if you can get out quicker.
Okay. I was just kind of contemplating, like, would I go under or over? Like, would I try to vault over?
I'll let you narrate how that happens depending on how your rolls work out.
Well, I think it would potentially change the check. If I'm vaulting over, I would think coordination would make more sense. As opposed to trying to push through.
I think in a panicked moment, it's push.
Yeah. I don't make it. I wind up with a threat and 2 failures.
Okay. So, not going to have you take any damage or anything like that. I would like you to hold a setback for your next roll. So again, thematically here, you're trying to push, and people are trying to push, and everyone's kind of jockeying for position, and your smaller kind of build is kind of being pushed off to the side by some of these larger aliens and everyone that's in there at that time. And just as you turn around and you're like, Dad, I can't get out, and you just see him fall over and hit the ground behind you. Smoke rising off of his back. Really? I'm sure you didn't. I'm painting a picture right now, people. Your turn is coming.
I know.
All right.
Get my arm shot off.
So with that is where we're going to fade to black on Percy's or Aaron's. Aaron. That's going to take a while. Sorry.
Amen.
On Aaron's.
I'll show you the skit.
Initial scene. Oh, I'll watch the skit. With that, we're going to cut over to Rick or Moringa. Now, Moringa, you're in the crowd when all this starts to erupt.
Yeah, man, it's a party.
Pretty much. You noticed and you saw the initial group of security forces start firing into this crowd. And in almost disbelief, you can't fathom why they're doing this to the citizens. The Emperor's dead. This shouldn't be taking place. You're with Chobor, and you're sitting there, and you were partying this up and enjoying this as much as you possibly can. And in a very serious voice, he's grabbing you and dragging you as soon as this starts. We gotta go. We gotta get out of here. We gotta run now. Meet me back at my place. And he takes off.
Come on, you chicken mom.
And at this point, you're seeing him wiggle his way through the crowd off to one side, away from the statue, more towards the eastern exit for the plaza. What would you like to do?
I'm on. And I'd probably start running after him.
Okay.
You know.
Are you pushing your way through through the crowd? What are you trying to do? How are you trying to get out of here? I'd like to have a little bit of flavor of how you're trying to get out.
I'd say, no, let's see, maybe we need to help some people here, we shouldn't be running off. And he would, say, no, this is bad, we're going to get out of here. And so he takes off, and I'm basically torn because I want to help, if I can help people. And then I'm like, well, he might need my help, so I take off, but he's probably got a good head start. And I'm going to, I'll duck and jive, but, I'll push people out of the way too, as I try to catch up to him.
Okay. So I would like in your case, I would like a coordination roll.
Oh, of course,
To
because
try and-
athletics is the one thing I actually have a skill in, and brawn is my big stat. No,
You've gotta-
I'm pushing
With
people
Mike,
out of
you've
the
got
way.
to describe it the opposite way of what you want to do.
Right. Okay. I'm athletically pushing my way through the crowd. Okay,
Now,
fine.
the crowd will also be applying a setback to your roll, sir.
Of course they will. And it's average check?
Yes, this is going to be an average check.
He doesn't want me catching my friend. But I have 2 success and 1 threat.
You have 2 success and 1 threat.
Yeah, through all that.
All right. So I'm going to
I
spend.
will not be defeated.
I'm going to spend your threat in a very unique way.
You fail after.
And I would, the fear, there's a tremendous amount of fear right now, which is starting to affect my, judgment. I'm starting to become a little overwhelmed because I pick up the pheromones of people, but also there's some anger I'm starting to pick up too. So,
All right. That's a very fair description.
Fear does lead to anger.
yeah.
Wise man once said.
A very small wise man.
A very small white man.
So anyway, as you're running through the crowd and you are ducking and diving and weaving between people and trying to catch up to your friend, and you actually are. You're doing a very good job of what's going on. And the senses are just almost getting to the point of where they're kind of overwhelming. And you can feel from behind you, from the crowd that's between you and those troopers, a much more definitive anger that's happening amongst that crowd. So there's as I described earlier, there's a portion of this crowd that is turning and trying to fight and engage these soldiers. And you don't know much about what's happening all truly, behind you other than that. You're just feeling, but you're very distracted as you're doing this. Again, you're very nimble and you are able to make it through and catch up to your friend. As you do, you're kind of, that feeling hits you and you kind of look back just enough to hit your friend in full stride. And I don't know if anybody's ever done this before, when you're running with someone in a group and you just clip their leg. Your friend goes toppling over down to the ground. And as you are now trying to stop, then I'm assuming, you would want to help try and pick him up. And as you're trying to stop, the crowd that's behind you as well is still trying to push forward. Unrelenting, this crowd is moving forward. Now, I would like for you to make me how do I want to put this? I would like for you to go ahead and make me a athletics check. This will be hard. Would you like to upgrade?
So basically, I'm stooped down trying to pick up Chobor.
Right. You've tripped him and you're being pushed and you're trying to fight your way back
He's
to grab
still
him
alive,
and pull
though.
him up. Yeah,
Oh,
he's alive.
he's alive.
He's just on the ground at
Okay.
this point.
Then I'm trying to shield him, using my body to shield him while I'm lifting him up.
Okay. So,
And yes, I would use.
okay, you're going to flip one and I'm going to flip one right back on you. So please go ahead and upgrade. Well, I see one good thing there.
Yeah,
Roll the canted one again.
Yeah. Okay, well that's actually better. Let's see. All right, so I'm left with a triumph, which is a success.
So you did not have to cancel the success.
I
All right.
did not.
So you are able to kind of push your way back in front of him, and you're kind of, not kneeling down in front of him, but you're trying to like, as people are hitting you, you're trying to act like a wave break and trying to just kind of shuffle them off to each side to give your friend an opportunity to be able to stand up. So what would you like to do with your triumph? given the situation and the scene that you're currently having play out in front of you, and mind that it was a athletics triumph.
That I'm able to pick him up.
Okay.
And carry him along with the tide.
All right. So you successfully kind of, as you're pushing people out of the way and try and make these long sweeps, you kind of grab him, reach back, and you feel his hand, and you're able to yank him back up, and then you guys start to continue to flow back with the crowd again. And you're with this whole group now, moving almost like, it's almost like a wave, a river of people now are flowing out towards those exits. And again, you're seeing folks left and right that are just tripping and falling over and getting knocked over as you're running through this crowd. What would we like to do with this?
Come on, Trouble, we got to get out of here, man. This is crazy. This is no fun anymore.
All right. So y'all are going to continue to break for that exit as fast as you can.
We're trying to look, actually, I'm probably going to try to see if I can find a place for cover. That, some place we can get, maybe a building or something.
There are a ton of statues between you and the edge of the buildings that are the heroes of the Empire. So there is potential cover that is sitting there. You don't know, you have seen some of these additional troops that are coming from the buildings areas that are firing into the crowd and back off into the buildings. You don't see any yet from the east side, which is why the crowd has been pushing that direction.
I don't believe he's not very athletic, and so I'm concerned that he's already fallen once. So my concern is he's going to fall again, and so that's why I'm going to try to force my way to, I guess, maybe one of the statues that people would be breaking around, and maybe find some cover, behind that until it maybe clears out a little bit, and that's what I'm going to do.
All right. So you guys are able to kind of wiggle your way over to be able to fit behind some cover.
Okay.
We're going to screen light from you.
Okay.
And we're going to go back over to Mr. A. Rock.
Oh.
Your father has just fallen to the ground smoking from the back.
Smoking? I told you this.
Crowd is starting to thin just enough, and you're just at that point where you can go through that door.
I am going to grab his identification before I pull up.
So you're going to turn around and go back to him and go grab his ID. Okay. All right.
Because I don't want, in the Empire's cleanup of this, to know that our family was involved in any way, shape, or form.
All right. So you're going to head back. We're going to settle that in just 2 seconds.
What will happen?
I'm holding off on your scene for just this very moment because we're going to come up on time soon. But we're going to flip back over to Morangan. You're now standing at that statue, and you guys are hidden behind it as best as possible. You're kind of crouching below the base. These are tall statues, so, you guys got, almost complete cover. You're kind of looking back up through the feet and the legs and seeing what's happened. And you see the crowd continue to pour out that east side. And almost in a moment of panic, you hear mechanical footsteps coming down that side of the road, coming towards that exit. You just hear that traditional zhoosh, zhoosh. So you know something. The Empire has sent something to help with this.
This is not good.
See what happens when you rescue your friends. Mike throws ATSTs at us. Stop rescuing your friends.
Is that the moral of the story? Stop helping people.
Be selfish. My D&D campaign is stay away from the bridge. Oh, man, Trouble, we got to go. Things are really getting out of hand. Now, do I see any?
Moringa, where are we gonna go?
I don't know.
That's the only place we could go. There's troopers everywhere else. Where are we gonna go?
I don't know. And I'm gonna pop my head up and I'm going to look around, try to make a perception check if I think I can spot any kind of clearing or any place else. And I mean, more troopers have been pouring in, and
From the buildings,
people are
correct.
dropping like flies.
Yes,
all
they are.
around us.
So if you would like to make a perception check to see where you think could potentially be clear, and that's what you're looking for is a clear area, then go ahead and feel free to make an average perception check. I'd say behind you is fairly clear, and you can see what's in front of you with, a whole group of people funneling to an exit.
And behind us is back towards the center.
Correct.
I failed with 2 advantage.
So with your advantage, you can, because you haven't taken strain yet, you can, and you're not really in a party yet. I don't want you to hand that off like it's an upgrade.
No.
You can introduce some more story facts here. Maybe there's something that you would like to introduce that you see.
Exit.
Yeah.
Well, that's what he was going for, and he
looking
failed.
So I failed that.
Maybe there's additional cover going towards another exit or another
Well,
area.
what I'm thinking is that there's a group, that's huddled together that are trying to work, almost like a wedge to force their way out, together, pushing through the crowd.
I like it. We can go with that.
And so I'm going to say, Chobot, come on, let's get with these guys. They seem to have a plan. It's just a disorganized mess around here. Other than that, let's see if maybe we can get
Anything's better than sitting here with what we hear coming.
I'm telling
And
you.
you see him, he just turns and goes right where you pointed him to.
Okay.
And
So
heads off that
we
direction.
get into the mass, that wedge, probably about 10 or 15 people. And I guess they know, it seems like they might know each other even. And so we're, working towards, hey, do y'all know where you're going? Yeah, I think over by that building.
I mean, you can say whatever you want to say. There's people screaming, they're panicking. It's just pandemonium right now. But yes, they do have a wedge that's like, it seems like there's a group of women and children that are right in the middle, that it looks like they're all same groups of species that have kind of banded together and are trying to push their way out towards one of these buildings to see if they can make an exit through one of the buildings.
Okay.
All right. With that, we're going to cut from you, and we're going to come back over. So,
So far,
Aaron.
you're safe, right?
Oh, so far, it seems it's tucked in somewhere.
we're about to screw him. That's okay.
Whoa. Whoa.
Aaron.
Also doesn't sound bad.
Would you like to flip a dark side point to get some?
Hey, Aaron.
Never mind.
You reach back over to your father. You basically pull yourself from the few people that are right there at the door where you'd be able to go through, and you kind of slide to the side and run directly to your father to be able to grab his ID. And you reach down and go to grab his ID. And you start rummaging through his pockets, because normally he keeps it in his upper pocket. I'd like a perception check.
Okay. What?
I would like a average, please.
I'm gonna upgrade it with the light
Sure.
side point. Ah man, nothing.
No threats, no nothing left over?
Nothing left over.
Okay.
I mean, I had a failure left over, but
So you don't see it. You don't see it on his body and where he's at. I mean, you kind of look at the ground. Maybe it got kicked. Maybe it got shuffled around as he fell over and slumped to the ground, and people were still trying to run through and run past. But what you do see is a trooper standing in that window, and he's bringing a blaster rifle to bear on you.
is there still a table upturned?
They're upturned everywhere.
Yeah, Twilight's.
And you hear, halt, freeze right there,
Yeah.
don't move.
I freeze.
And another trooper climbs through the window itself and starts working his way to the side of the room and is coming towards you from the side. Rifle trained.
I kind of hands off. Done.
Twi'lek, stick your hands out. Put them out now.
They are
In front of you.
I only have 2 hands. They're
On your
out
knees, down on the
already.
ground.
I already am.
Move.
Literally, I'm kneeling down by my dead dad. that
Hands
you just
behind
shot.
you. Hands behind you.
Do that
And
again now
as-
without anything going on.
As you start to
No.
put your hands
No.
behind you,
No.
you feel binders
Okay.
clasped on your hands.
There you go.
And he forcefully yanks you up off the ground.
Okay.
And takes you over to the side of the building.
Yep.
Into an alleyway.
Sounds good.
And that is where we're going to wrap up this session. For those of you that are on the stream, again, we're going to go ahead and take a 5-minute break. And after this 5-minute break is up, we're going to come back and we're going to pick back up with Mr. Aaron having just been captured. Having
And
Mr.
then my new character.
Moringa.
That's going to be joining.
That works for the government. You're fine.
And then
You
having
know?
Moringa, who has just pushed his way into a crowd with his best friend. And we have yet to determine what has happened with Mr. Tui.
What happened?
He's fine.
So we'll be back in 5 minutes. For those of you that are not on the stream, and you're watching this in, recording, and you're watching this edited, keep on adventuring.
Right.